It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's now Hurricane Idalia, huh?
It is, in fact, the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. It is now a hurricane, officially Hurricane Idalia, and gaining strength over the very warm waters in the Gulf of Mexico and on its way to make landfall Tuesday night into Wednesday morning in Florida. Also in Florida, Greg Tish. You may know him if you are in Tallahassee. He is the host of our great affiliate, Real Talk 93.3 in the mornings. In fact, he's on right after Red Eye, and he's up early this morning hanging out with us and filling us in on what it's like there in the capital city and what's going on the ground as things have changed a bit in the forecast. Greg, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Hey, long time, first time. I'm not up late. I'm just starting my day. I love listening to you guys every morning when I'm coming in, and I appreciate all the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are here in Tallahassee and along the coastline, and, of course, the entire Panhandle and the Big Bend, that we are doing basically update watching. We're just waiting for those new updates to come in because of the uncertainty of these storms. And I think that we know that, but many Floridians learned that last year, especially with Hurricane Ian, that it was supposed to track much further north than it did and caught a lot of people kind of off guard because they weren't watching that cone. They were focused on the center of the cone. And so we're watching this, and it was moving easterly down towards the Cedar Key area where I believe Jim Cantori is right now, which nobody wants to see him in their town. But it's kind of looking at the computer models overnight. It looks like it's taking a more of a westerly turn. And we're Tallahassee. We're right on that cusp of bad to possibly real bad.
Wow. Hurricane 3, it's expected to be. And we've talked about this and earlier in the season, even before this storm or this system was spawned, there was talk about how the Gulf waters are warmer than usual. And of course,
hot tub warm.
Yeah, and I know you folks in Florida and a lot of us in the South this summer have felt that heat. Well, that's not good when it comes to hurricanes because that's where the energy is. And it looks like it's going to give plenty of energy to Idalia leading up to it. So what do we know? What are you seeing right now in terms of the timeline on where it's going to, or when it's going to make landfall late Tuesday?
It looks like, looking at the latest hurricane forecast from National Hurricane Center, it looks like we'll start receiving winds around the Big Bend and down the westerly coast of Florida this evening around 8 and around 2 a.m. It's always nighttime, and also it's not helping that there's a super blue moon out there, which will pull the tides up. So it looks like about 2 a.m., but be gone out by 8 a.m. So it's going to pick up a lot of speed. But today we're expecting that explosion from going from a Category 1, which it is right now, which just named during the last update, to a major hurricane, Category 3. And I've heard, flirting with 4. Wow. But we should just be prepared for the worst and hope for the best.
Now, Greg, we were talking earlier, and you're saying a lot of people, they think of Florida, they think of the coast, and they think that it's all just condos. But there are areas, including where this hurricane may hit, that are actually quite uninhabited.
That's correct. I mean, our coastline we have to our west is called the Forgotten Coast, and to our east is called the Nature Coast. And this is one of the reasons that we love this area of Florida so much, is that it's not overdeveloped. Of course, there's people that live there that have their beach houses, and there's the condos, but we're not like most people would picture, like Miami Beach or even the Destin area, that it's very low with the amount of people that have places there that may live there or part-time live there. So that's a good thing on the coast. I feel horrible for those people. Yeah. But as this tracks, if it takes this track, it'll also go through an area of Florida that is not well populated either. I mean, if it goes down, we could go through Gainesville, Jacksonville, of course, which would be major population centers in our state. But and this sounds odd, but best case scenario, this is the best place for it to hit besides us in Tallahassee.
Well, the fewer people, then the better. And when it comes to that, I mean, again, anyone who's lived in Florida for any amount of time, they're well aware of how this works. And officials have been, I think, done a very good job under the leadership of Governor DeSantis through hurricanes, and have over the years as well. But right now, I think with the technology, there's really no excuse to be uninformed on such a matter. And it seems like people are responding. Is that the scene there in Florida? Are people responding and heeding the warnings?
Let me remind everybody, go back to 2020 and COVID and everybody rushing to the grocery stores to buy everything.
Yeah.
We do that in Florida anytime a storm comes close, minus the TP paper. But everybody rushes to the store 4 or 5 days early, fills up their gas tanks.
Yeah.
It's almost a panic buy is what we call it.
Sure.
And like you said, Governor DeSantis has done a great job. Our local leadership here in Tallahassee, the city of Tallahassee, has been very prepared. The county, Leon County, has been very prepared. They've had sandbag outlets out where people in the low-lying areas, because that's another thing with Tallahassee, is a lot of people think of Florida as flat, but Tallahassee, we're the city of 7 hills. So we have a lot of flood-prone areas.
Oh,
and so we're in a unique area in Florida.
Sure.
And with us, that I went and did some research. And we had Hurricane Kate back in 1985, and I can remember as a teenager that we were out of power with 9 days. That the entire city was just shut down. And I went back and looked at the winds, and our maximum sustained wind was 53 miles per hour, and that's the highest sustained winds we've ever had. We had gusts to 87.
Yeah.
But we're right there on that cusp of 50 to 60 to possible 75 to 100. And we're a tree-loving city. We have trees everywhere, and this is what makes us very unique. 75 to 100 miles per hour winds coming through here we would have a different landscape tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
or Thursday, excuse me.
Yeah, and speaking of landscape, is that shoreline in that area, the landscape itself, in terms of storm surge, which is one of the most dangerous, in fact, is historically the most dangerous part of a hurricane, does the landscape lend itself to better absorb that type of surge, or is it the same no matter where you go?
No, it would be different in our area because you don't have that development. That you still have the trees, you still have a lot of the big dunes covered with all sorts of foliage that you have. Everything. I mean, it's just as flat as the rest of the state, not as much as the East Coast, but that it may be able to absorb that a little bit. But if there's, whatever they're projecting, that could just go right over the top of it.
Sure.
And I think you're about 22 miles from the coast.
Correct.
Like that?
Correct.
All right. So and you really don't have like any inlet waterways, do you?
No, we don't. We have the Ochlockonee River, but that's not going to affect us at all. And also that you can actually go up to the 22nd floor of the Capitol and look down towards the coast, and you can see where the coastline starts. As far as the flat area goes, we go from these beautiful rolling hills to just completely flat. So all of our neighbors that are down near the coast in Wakulla County, Franklin County, Taylor County, that I hope that they heed the warnings of evacuating and do leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that all of you at Real Talk 93.3 are going to be on top of this and following this intently throughout the day and also throughout the night. Of course, we'll be following it as well, and in the days after, because after every major storm, every major hurricane, you folks in Florida know this all too well, there's a lot of effort that takes to rebuild and put everything back together.
Absolutely. And that's the one great thing with our city, that we have our utility department standing by for us. But if we don't get a direct hit, and we're fine here, that all the men and women that work for the City of Tallahassee Utilities, they'll be heading to where the storm directly hits.
All right. Greg Tish.
You be safe.
Thank you, guys.
Morning show on Real Talk 93.3 every morning right after Red Eye Radio. And Greg, thank you. Great to talk to you, buddy. And our thoughts and prayers are with everybody, all of our friends there in Florida. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay.
It's interesting to watch it because you never get used to the power of Mother Nature. Having done this for years, you and I started. It was almost immediately. In fact, it was wow. It was today's the anniversary of
about
Hurricane Katrina.
5 weeks, 6 weeks.
Yeah, we were just a few weeks in, and so Hurricane Katrina making its second landfall on this day, and of course we know in Louisiana, and then we know what happened in New Orleans after that. It had already made landfall days before that in Florida, and then went out back over the Gulf and became this massive storm. And this is the thing is that when we read forecasts, we look at forecasts and we look at, okay, this is where this is going to go with all the technology. It is still just mesmerizing to look at the power of Mother Nature, and that's why it's so important to take the information that you have if you're in the path of this storm and to get out of the path any way that you can, go to higher ground, and that has to be done. That there's just no other choice.
I'm looking here. I can understand Greg's concern because, as we noticed when we were talking to him before he went on the air, that it was taking a slightly, westerly move, which would mean, it's closer to Tallahassee at that point, as he expressed.
Right.
That if you get 75, 80, 90 mile an hour winds, there's a lot of trees coming down. And when you see that the National Weather Service, or National Hurricane Center, that even when it hits at 1 p.m. Wednesday, the Georgia border, it's still a hurricane. That means at least winds of 75 miles an hour.
Right.
And that's pretty far inland.
That's holding that energy for that long over land.
Which I understand is concerned that it could be a 4.
Right. Right.
When he said, we're hoping it's not. Right now it's predicted to be a 3, but they're worried about that, you come in at a Cat 4.
Right.
And that's going to do a lot of damage going through those particular areas. So.
Well, it's like Greg said, you have to prepare for the worst. And just assume that and there's no doubt it's going to be powerful, but you prepare for the worst.
866-90-RED-EYE.
A 55-year career for U.S. Forest Service pathologist Martin McKenzie has earned him several titles, such as Professional Observer and
Stump Buster,
for his ability to break stumps to find plant disease and fungus that lessen tree mortality, and to identify dead and dying trees in a 5-forest region in California.
when these trees die and fall on the ground, they become $1,000 fuels, and they'll burn for $1,000 when they catch fire. But once you've got dense vegetation in taller trees and low vegetation underneath, it can crown fire, and that's what's the most dangerous. That's what we lose the greatest number of trees.
McKenzie's method for developing his observation abilities is taking one area of forest at a time and spending time seeing and creating his mental picture of what a normal forest looks like versus one that has signs of unhealthy trees and vegetation. I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report is made possible by Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Diesel and Citgo Lubricants.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I just saw an update from the story that the judge actually made the decision Friday. I didn't see this at all over the weekend, and it was actually a pretty big story when it happened. The University of Wyoming sorority members' lawsuit for the inclusion of a transgender student in their organization was dismissed by a federal judge on Friday. In March, several current and former members of the University of Wyoming's Kappa Gamma sorority sued the school to revoke the membership, allowing what they described as peeping, that's in quotes, peeping transgender student Artemis Langford. Despite the women's description of Langford's alleged actions, the judge ruled that the school did not violate any policies by allowing the student to join. The University of Wyoming chapter voted to admit, and more broadly, a sorority of hundreds of thousands approved Langford. With its inquiry beginning and ending there, the court will not define women today. The delegate of a private voluntary organization interpreted women, otherwise undefined in the nonprofit's bylaws, expansively. This judge may not invade Kappa Gamma's freedom of expressive association and inject this circumscribed definition plaintiffs urge. I think I'm reading this I just scanned it real quickly before we went on the air. I believe what the judge is saying is, your sorority approved it, they get to do it. If you don't like it, quit.
Yeah,
that we're not. That
this is not a judgment about.
Right.
We're not going to say this is gender, that's gender. We're just saying you have an organization that can make your own rules, and you have to live by your own rules.
Right. If you don't wish to be in it, and it was approved by the normal process of your this is what I'm getting out of it. Reading it, like I said, really for the first time, I skimmed it once, scanned it once, maybe. It doesn't matter what he did that upset you. You know, you may be able to get him for, exposure or something like that. Right. I don't know. But the fact of trying to say he shouldn't be in, well, they're a private organization. If they wish to allow men in and men in with women, they are allowed to do so.
Well, and that's it.
I believe that's what I'm getting from
in the quote from the judge, the University of Wyoming chapter voted to admit, and more broadly, a sorority of hundreds of thousands approved Langford. With its inquiry beginning and ending there, the court will not define a woman today. As you said, look, that's basically what he's saying. Y'all voted on this. Now, they could have another vote based on the behavior of the individual and say, okay, this person is out.
So the lawsuit was brought by, this wasn't about defining a woman.
No.
For what it looks like here.
No.
The lawsuit brought by 7 members of Kappa Gamma claimed that Langford violated university policies by joining a sorority despite not being a woman or making efforts to appear female.
Right.
Langford states that he is transgender and that he self-identifies as a woman. His behavior, however, does not reflect a man living as a woman, let alone a man attempting to be consistently live as a woman, the complaint said. Other than occasionally wearing women's clothing, Langford makes little effort to resemble a woman. He has not undergone treatments to create a more feminine appearance, such as female hormones, feminization surgery, or laser hair removal. Plaintiffs often observe Langford with facial hair one would expect on a man who either did not shave that morning or whose facial hair has regrown by evening. Additional court documents alleged other unacceptable behaviors, such as peeping on them while they were in intimate situations, and at least on one occasion had a visible erection while doing so. Again, looking at it, there may be a crime there, but the lawsuit was that the company or the organization went against its own rules, and he's saying no,
went
they
against
don't.
the university rules. And it's if that's the case, what the judge appears to be saying is the organization voted on it, and where I don't see anything that the judge wrote about the university directly, but if it violates the university rules, it's up to the university to enforce the rules or not if they choose not to. But the judge was not going to define gender, and that wasn't the point of the case. So
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We have an audio cut of the day.
We do?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, and it is, Karine Jean-Pierre is back. It seems like forever. I mean, they've been on vacation for the last, 9 months. And so they were back. And, of course, Pete Ducey is back. Mm-hmm. And so what's the question? The illusion of influence. We get right into it. I mean, as so many stories have popped up the last couple of days from the story yesterday that 5,400, the National Archives has admitted now, 5,400 emails and other such evidence of Biden using aliases.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that really is a mountain of evidence, and depending on the content of those messages, it could tell us so much.
Oh, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's just wow. And then the collusion, conflict of interest, however you wish to look at it. The Devon Archer, just a little bit before the decision came down to fire the Ukrainian prosecutor, Devon Archer, a business partner of Hunter Biden, visiting John Kerry.
Yeah.
Like, why? And then, as we also know,
who was Secretary of the State at the time.
Yes, and just a few, right, exactly.
Not climate czar.
Not climate czar, right. He was not climate czar.
I'm sure they talked about the climate because he is John Kerry.
Yes. Devin, did you know?
Devin?
Did you know Al-Qaeda doesn't provide health care?
What is your company doing about climate change, Devin? Aren't you Secretary of State? Yes.
Can a bribe be more climate friendly?
Yeah.
But that story that's out there, the story that the White House counsel met aides to the White House counsel met with aides to Jack Smith while he was investigating just a couple of weeks before they indicted Trump for January 6th. They met.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And just so much is going on, and so much is probably going to blow up over the next month on this. So it was interesting to hear some of Pete Ducey's question and about how she couldn't answer anything.
The Secret Service is paying $16,000 a month now to stage near Hunter Biden in Malibu. Who's paying for that?
That's a question for the Secret Service.
Okay, Hunter Biden is reportedly selling art to pay for his $15,800 a month rent in Malibu. How can you guarantee that people are not going to be buying this art to gain favor with the president?
That is a question for Hunter Biden and his representatives.
It's a
I know. I hear.
At the White House, we know that one of the art buyers got a job from the Biden administration. Can you guarantee that there is no quid pro quo?
I hear your question. I'm not going to get involved in this. That is a question for Hunter Biden's representatives.
So, but we know that from a Hunter Biden associate now that he sold the appearance of access to then Vice President Biden. Are you confident that he has stopped doing that?
That is a question for Hunter Biden.
If somebody is selling the appearance of access to the White House, that is a question for the White House.
No, that is your I don't know how you're perceiving that.
It's sworn testimony by Devin Archer. He said,
I am just not, Peter. I'm just not going to get into this. I'm just not.
So, this testimony, since the last time that I was in here, Devin Archer talks about how he and Hunter Biden tried to profit off the Biden brand. What is the Biden brand?
Not going to get into it from here.
Not going to get into it from here. But wait a minute. If the White House has never commented, and Devin Archer said that at the minimum it was the as the Democrats have jumped upon, the illusion of influence.
Uh-huh.
Well, he actually said the brand and influence. The illusion of influence was actually used by Goldman. Goldman used that term, not Devin Archer.
Right.
So he got that a little bit wrong there. But even if we'll go with, all right, it's an illusion of influence, Devin Archer has said that, the White House has never responded, and the Sun has spent a ton of time with Joe.
Yeah.
So just to make it clear, what does the White House have to say about it? Was Devon Archer wrong, or should the public be worried that now as president, that the president's son is still attempting to make money through the illusion of influence? And with the paintings that he's selling, and apparently, as he said, somebody who bought a painting got a job through the White House.
Mm-hmm.
That's the illusion at the minimum, right?
Yeah.
The illusion
Right.
of influence.
Right. Exactly. I'm going to give you this money for this paint by numbers thing you bought at Walmart, and I get a job at the White House or through the White House.
And this is really interesting. You and I said, wow, and we had mentioned this before, but electric vehicles, trouble on the lot.
Mm-hmm.
The number of electric vehicles being sold in the U.S. continues to rise, but early signs that they may not be selling at the pace determined by the central planners have not gone away. From Insider, the electric vehicles that are being pumped out of car factories, more electric vehicles are being pumped out of car factories than ever before, but some dealers don't want them. Electric car inventory has been piling up on dealership lots this year as companies up their EV production, leading some dealers to say enough is enough. Some are telling automakers they don't want any more until they can sell what's sitting there. Several dealers told Insider, "We have turned away EV inventory," said Scott Coons, Chief Operating Officer at Coons Auto and RV Group, which sells Detroit brands as well as Nissan and Mitsubishi in the Midwest. We need to ensure that we have a good return on it. Automakers are asking us to make a large investment, Coons added, and we're just wanting to see some return on that investment. When you put it that way, what you realize is the dealerships,
they're not buying into it.
They're not owned by the
Literally.
They're not owned by the automobile manufacturers.
Right.
They're a separate business.
Right. And
you're giving them a product that no one wants to buy.
And what are you going to do with it? The only thing you can do when you take ownership of it, delivery of it, is what? Discount it.
Plug-in vehicle availability is increasing rapidly, a sign the EV adoption growth curve is about to hit a serious slowdown. A switch from enthusiastic and wealthy early adopters to more apprehensive and budget-minded car shoppers is throwing the electric car transition for a loop, forcing car companies to change their outlooks and to pull back on ambitious EV production goals. It's not just about that these vehicles are expensive, which they are. We're talking about a much more nuanced lifestyle, said Sam Fiorani, the vice president of global vehicle forecasting for Auto Forecast Solutions. He pointed to the difference in EV ownership experience, including charging and range anxiety as stoppers for many buyers. Range anxiety. I like that. I am afflicted with range anxiety.
Yeah. Well, think about what
Actually, charging time anxiety.
Yeah. Think about what's going on right now. Commercial real estate is in a very precarious situation. You have tech workers, I saw the headlines recently the other day. The tech layoffs are slowing down. Well, that doesn't mean things are good. It just means maybe they've laid off what to the extent they wanted to, right? So you have, and the reason I bring up tech workers is because a lot of those tech people, that's your EV crowd, right? Those are the people that are very tech friendly. They adapt very well to new technology, of course, and they're going to be one of the probably one of the largest groups in terms of individuals buying those cars. Then you add to it interest rates. And just the return on investment. Think about this too. What have we seen in the non-commercial real estate, in housing? In housing numbers, you look at what people are paying for shelter overall, right? But if they're moving in, if their people are moving because they need to find affordable shelter, they're moving in with parents, they're moving in with a roommate. Now, your charging abilities change. Things are changing in your, and it's like, okay, I'd really like to have an EV. I was going to buy an EV. I think I'll wait. So even the people that are on board for the EVs that haven't bought it yet, who may have been prospective buyers, are looking at it differently right now for all of those reasons I just mentioned. It's expensive. It's really expensive. And the dealerships are saying, we're not going to make the investment. We're not going to buy bricks.
As a result, one East Coast Ford dealer previously told Insider they were only declining allocation of electric vehicles from the automaker. Another in the Midwest said Lightning orders were piling up, uncompleted, leaving those customers with time to pick a different EV.
Oh, there's another thing. The gap. You order it, and then you're waiting on it, and then all of a sudden, you change your mind. Yeah. Lightning is the Ford Lightning.
One Hyundai dealer on the West Coast said they were also passing on EV-specific allocation, while another Hyundai dealer told Insider he anticipated having to turn away EVs very soon. In this round of growing pains for the electric vehicle market, dealers are set up for the most trouble. Car companies are likely to continue churning out EVs they promise to investors, leaving dealers to figure out how to sell them to a new set of customers. But the savviest executives will need to heed this first warning from dealers about where the demand pendulum is swinging. Carl Brewer, an automotive analyst for IC Cars, previously told Insider, dealers know in real time with real-time feedback what the market is doing. They have always acted as the first warning light on the dash for the automotive industry. And yet central planners are still planning to force automakers to sell more and more EVs on a schedule unrelated to consumer demand.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, because that's it. If you don't have people calling you, placing the orders, walking onto your lot with interest, and all those things that are required that's part of the process dealerships go through. Why would you buy it?
I timed myself the other day. It's like I'm coming to work, and it's like, okay, I want to get, it's like a few minutes late.
Yeah.
I went to the gas station. It took me 3 minutes and 20 seconds to fill up 10 gallons in.
Yeah.
And it was 10 in. So, I mean, that's swipe credit card, boom, 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 put it in, 10 gallons, put it back in, grab the receipt in the car, look down, 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah. Right.
And that was too long for me.
Yeah. Right.
I was like, man, what an inconvenience. And you may say, well, what we need to do is teach people to think differently, Gary. You need to be, Gary needs to be re-educated and retrained.
Tell your employer to be patient. I mean,
well, I was in plenty of time for work, but
this is what they would end up. These are the kind of crazy things they say.
But it's just my own. It's just my own schedule. My own schedule is I'm not going to wait at any time during the day 40 minutes to charge, or a half hour to charge, or 20 minutes to charge.
Yeah,
not going to do it.
No, it's too much of an inconvenience, and as the Ford CEO found out, going down Route 66, we may need some help from Tesla, on the whole charging thing. It's not as easy as you might think.
866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara.
All right.
Man, what a day.
Yeah, going to be a very busy day there
Yeah.
in the state of Florida as they prepare for the arrival of Hurricane Idalia, officially becoming a hurricane about an hour ago, and now expected to become a very strong hurricane. Category 3. Could it be even stronger than a 3? Wow. We'll be watching it throughout the day, and we'll have coverage as it makes landfall on tonight's show.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.